3 games in 6 days, and I got 4 and 11. Pretty tough stretch. Came through it pretty well.
We did. Yeah, certainly I think it's a challenge. It's a challenge, obviously, because the Sunday game moved, or the game moved to Sunday because of TV. 3 games in a week, always a challenge. And certainly I think in Game 3, you probably saw us have to weather the storm of not making shots early, but we defended pretty well. We didn't take care of the ball as well as we wanted to, but a lot of that has to do with Texas Tech's defense too. And then found a way down the stretch. We played really, really well in the fourth quarter and made some shots in that quarter, and were able to come out on top.
Speak to what Kaya did. I know she's been battling some things, and to defend Scott the way she did, she made her work for everything she got.
She did. I think Kaya's getting back to closer to being fully healthy at this point in time. Has really been working at it with her, getting her knee and her leg kind of all back and recovered. But I thought she did a really good job. She really hasn't had that type of responsibility to get through ball screens that type of way in the past. And I thought she did a really good job. And the one time she, missed an assignment, and Scott made her pay for it.
A couple big threes too in the second half.
She did. She made some big shots for us, and I thought she rebounded at a pretty high level, or at least kept kids off the glass, did some of those type of things for us.
Go ahead.
With this week, a little bit of time off, I guess what's been the focus or the goal in trying to prepare for a trip to TCU?
Right. The 3 games in a week is physically very challenging. So this week we have some time to, I think, certainly get back in the mode from a class standpoint, but also physically kind of get our bodies hopefully recovered at a higher level. It's certainly challenging from the standpoint of having to know 3 different opponents. And while you're doing that, and I think our players did a pretty good job of recognizing and making adjustments and learning new players and new actions and how we want to attack it and what we have to try to slow down from their end of it. This allows us this week a chance to work on some of the things we haven't had time to really focus on, maybe how we move the ball a little bit differently, or how do we screen a little bit differently, how do we read screens a little bit better. And so some of those type of things we have a few days at least to work on.
How do you strike a balance between keeping your players healthy or getting them healthy, keeping them in game shape for a game? I mean, there's a tricky balance there, right? Because you got some players that are a little banged up,
right,
but you've also got to keep them in shape when you play next Sunday.
Well, I think our team is a team that has a great deal of awareness on how to try to get their bodies feeling really good, and I think they work really hard with our strength and conditioning staff and with our athletic training staff to do as much as they can, and that's really, really important to do those type of things. At the same time, I think it's important for us to work on how do we get better and what are some things we have to improve upon, whether that's in a full court, whether that's in a half court, and kind of mix that in. And got to do a couple of the drills that maybe our players haven't had a chance to do as much, getting up and down the court, after a day off. It was a long stretch because not only was it 3 games in a week, but then leading up to the Baylor game, you have a couple days to prep for that too. So, our players went after it for quite a stretch.
You guys have been playing well during that stretch too, 4 or 5. Is this a good time to have a break, or would you rather keep playing right now?
I think we need a break at this point in time. I think it's important for us. But to your point, yes, it is. We have been playing pretty well in a lot of stretches. I thought we had a day off on Sunday, and in Monday's practice there was a lot of energy and a lot of zip to it too. So I think our players are really working and conscientious to continue to improve.
This is unique, double round robin. Have you ever had to do that before?
We have, have in other conferences.
Okay, so but in this regard, you're going to play your first repeat game before you play Texas, which is a little unusual, I guess.
Yeah, before we play Texas, before we play Oklahoma State, and so yes,
Right.
certainly kind of an odd challenge the way scheduling works out, but that happens quite a bit in different conferences where all of a sudden you don't play. We had a scenario where we didn't play a team until maybe the second to third last week of the conference, and then we played them almost not really back to back, but there's a week or 10 days in between, and then that was the team we ended up playing again in the conference tournament in first round. So it was just kind of odd how that all works. So it is what it is, and at this point in time, we have an opportunity to go back and watch us on film against TCU and see where we have to improve and what we have to get better at. And we haven't had a chance to really do that yet this season, and so that'll be something different for us.
I was going to say, how does that change prep, playing one team twice within 18 days with games in between?
Well, I don't know that it's really that much different, except that the film is different. So we can go back and we can look at maybe player personnel, and we can see it in our game versus in other games. So I don't know that it's vastly different. What did we do that we liked? What do we have to get better at? And we can see it in film at that point in time. But it's not a lot different, really.
How much can you change radically between one game to the next? So you played TCU, you played really well. I'm sure they're going to probably tweak some things, do some things differently against you than they did the first time. How much can you really do, though?
You know what's really interesting about that is I think the year that we saw the most changes was kind of that in our conference back at South Dakota when we played during the COVID year, we played back-to-back games. So we played our the same opponent back-to-back days, and that was the year that you saw more changes than ever before. And so it was really interesting. I don't know exactly why that is per se, because maybe you didn't have as much time to prep in between, but that was, I think you go back and you try to evaluate what has your opponent done differently since that time? What are their wrinkles, and what are player changes? What are sets, different things that they're running? What are different defensive looks that they're giving? What are coaches' tendencies the second time around? And those are all things that we're learning at this stage too.
Coach, scoring-wise, obviously most of the production comes from your starters, but are you happy with where your bench is at from that scoring standpoint, or do you still want to see some more from those players over the course of the rest of the season?
Well, I think our young ladies off the bench have given us a great boost. It doesn't always come in a scoring punch, but they're doing a lot of things to help our team play at a high level when they're in there. And so, yeah, it'd be great. It's great when you get scoring production out of everybody that is on the court. And, that means we're scoring a lot of points, and that's really a good thing. So, if we can get that, that would really be ideal for us. Absolutely.
To her point, I think there was a period in the third quarter when you replaced all but one starter. And I think you were down at the time, and they held it to where it was to when you got the starters back in, you were able to take over. So there's benefits even when they don't score.
Oh, absolutely. I think we saw the same thing in the Texas Tech game early in the first quarter too. And just because we're trying to, keep everyone as fresh as possible, trying to give us a boost, trying to give us a charge, all those type of things. Trying to, you try to be as strategic as possible. Try to get a little extra rest before a media timeout if you can do that. Try to get a surge right before that timeout, and then sometimes it goes really well, and you just kind of keep going with that lineup. And so, trying to put all those pieces together is important. But certainly there is a benefit. There's a benefit. It doesn't always have to come in a scoring punch.
Are you conscious of Maddie's minutes? I know she's played a lot of minutes in the past. Is that something you keep in the back of your mind?
Well, I think you have to, and I think what you're seeing right now, and we saw it last week, is that there are a lot of players in this conference. There are a lot of teams that are playing. When we got to the Kansas game, they played really 6 kids over 10 minutes. It was it, and you're seeing that not just in that game. You're seeing it a lot over the course of conference seasons, and not just in the Big 12, just overall. And so yes, you try to be as aware as possible. And what does that look like? Is it a load management thing? Is it how do you make sure? And again, that's when it comes down to how you taking care of your body outside of what we're doing as a team. And again, what we do as a team is really important with all that too.
So you're conscious before media timeouts, maybe, okay, get Maddie out for a minute, try to steal a minute there to give her a little break. You think about that a little bit, or is that your staff that help in your ear, or how does that?
You certainly have to think about it at the same time. It also helps when JJ's on the court and not in foul trouble. That's a big part of it for us. What are the matchups, for us? Maddie is someone that we rely on a lot to handle the ball against pressure situations. So is there a time when we can get her some rest when we're not facing some of those type of things? So yes, kind of look at a lot of that.
To your point too about fouling JJ, and I think of Kylie, you've kind of fixed that a little bit where they were getting these unnecessary fouls early.
Well, let's hope so. Let's hope that it has, because that's really important to have access to have everybody on your team be able to be playing, and not in foul trouble, not have to worry about, not playing hard or letting things go all the time is really important.
Jayla, I know I asked about her big week last week after the game on Saturday, but going back to the beginning of your time here, first meeting her, I guess where have you seen her biggest growth throughout the season?
I think Jayla's growth right now is that she's always played really hard. She has. Playing hard and staying in balance on the defensive end. Playing hard and guarding without trying to put someone at the free throw line or fouling at that point in time. Offensively, she's always been someone who's in attack mode. She's aggressive, and I think that's really important in how we play and what we want to do. But also recognizing now, and I think she's getting better at this, is when is that time? When is that time to attack? Or you start to attack, and she had a couple possessions that we've shown on film to our team where she started to attack, didn't have anything, pulled it back out and swung it, and now we get the next action out of it. So those type of things, I think her awareness of how aggressive she should be and when it really makes sense. And I thought she played really aggressively down the stretch, or actually throughout the game, but really down the stretch against Texas Tech, and got to the free throw line, got some offensive rebounds, and she's been doing that, getting to the rim and making a lot of things happen for her. She had a big possession in the fourth quarter when the ball entered on the right side of the floor. It swung to her on the left side of the floor, and she attacked and got to the rim and got an and one. So I think her awareness of when to do different things and how to do different things to be really efficient is really improving, and it's really kind of fun to watch her growth.
She plays well with an open floor. When you studied her, did you say, this could work with what I do, the way I spread the floor? Was that in the back of your mind?
Well, I think she fits how we want to play at a really high level in an ideal setting for us in an motion offense. And you haven't seen as much of it because it takes time to put all the pieces together. But she's someone who can shoot it. She's someone who can attack on the dribble, and she's someone who can post up, and she can offensive rebound. And she's a good passer on top of all of it. So I think she fits our overall mentality and way we want to attack really well.
And really deceptive, too, with her size and her knack of getting the ball. She's really good at getting 50-50 balls.
She's really good at getting those. Yeah, she is. On both ends of the court. On the defensive end, on the offensive end, she's really, really good at it. Yeah. And there was a possession in our last game where I think the ball hit 3 or 4 different players' hands and all of a sudden just landed in her hands. And that happens, not that happens a lot, that it hits other people's hands, but she's around it and it sticks. So I don't know what her parents did, if they allowed her to play ball in the house and catch in the house, but she's got great hands.
Yeah. And and two, there are instances maybe where Kylie doesn't get the rebound, but either deflects it or keeps her person away where Jayla can get it.
Well, and that's really been a message for us, especially lately, is that if we can keep the other team's leading rebounders off the glass, then and that's somebody's job, then somebody else has to go get the ball. Now it'd be ideal to do both. That'd be great. If it's hard to do both, then you do this part of the job and let someone else do the other part of the job.
And of course, JJ's part of that too.
JJ is part of that. JJ's a very, very good rebounder on both ends of the court. Yes, very much so. And you get to spend some time with them, right? Who do you have?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.